I need to thank Jake Grant for helping me get my table full of gemstones and treasures up here. Now, okay, I want to be up in front of this thing. Hold on. If you don't know me, you guys, or if you haven't got a chance to get to know me here at the conference, I just want to first of all thank everybody that actually came here and made a commitment, sacrificed out of your lives and out of your time, your energy, your attention, and I'm sure a little public scourging. Before I get going, I got to hit record. Hold on. Sorry. Now, thanks for that. I'm going to be putting on and changing outfits and picking up swords and obviously spears. There's chunks of bamboo. I brought my entire table up here because I don't think there's any way I can possibly start to describe the amount of things that I have been learning, studying, and coming to an understanding with. And just before I even get going, you guys have given up so much to be here, and I really genuinely want to just thank each and every one of you. As we're wrapping up this conference, there were sacrifices you all made to be here, and most of you, though, you sacrificed also in order to actually get to a place where you'd show up at a conference. We're going to talk about topics that may be super controversial. You were willing to give up your pride. You were willing to lay down into these fields where people are going to literally belittle you, mock you, fire arrows at you with relentless intensity. Strategic targeted warfare has loosed itself onto your lives. I've got to sit down and hear people's testimonies and stories of marriages that have been tested, of friendships that have been shattered, of relationships that used to mean everything to you that were sifted out of your life. You have given up. You are people that have become mighty by the sacrifices you have made. It has refined you. But you've been tested. You've been tried. You've experienced a world that most people avoid. Most people spend their whole life avoiding persecution. They hide from it. We've created a society that avoids discomfort. We make sure our chairs are comfortable-ish. I know these chairs were savage. They don't count at all. My body is not pleased. But most of us like to have a comfortable place to rest. Most of us want somewhere where we can find a little peace and quiet. Most of us want to have a home and a family and friends and people that love us and care about us. But more importantly, we want to be understood. We want to be understood. And so then when we suddenly come to an understanding of this information, where when we picked up our Bibles, when we suddenly began to read this book as more than just like that dusty thing on the shelf, like when we read it, you know what I'm talking about. When suddenly you got a hook set in your jaw so deep that it whipped you out of the world and it dropped you into a totally new reality where you suddenly realize there is a physical and spiritual war taking place every single day and night, and it is devouring our families. It's devouring our friendships. It's devouring our relationships. What is that about? This has the answers. And you suddenly looked into this book, this sword of the covenant, as a precious thing. You saw it as something that was valuable for the first time in your life. It had been waiting for you all along. We've been blessed beyond measure to grow up by and far in a country where these are available, where these are literally lying around. They literally don't mean anything to most of us. They become so numerous that it doesn't even matter. You could just find one anytime, right? Surely. You open the drawers in the hotel room and there's one waiting for you. It's like there's an ambush predator of truth waiting for each and every one of you, right? There's like a secret silent stalker waiting to give you the answers. Like crying in the night, why? Open the drawer. It's been there the whole time. But why didn't we see it? Why couldn't we hear it? Why couldn't we understand it? We had scales over our eyes. There is a clear and present danger. There is a present darkness that is stalking us, that is seeking ways to devour, that is strategizing, conniving, being subtle, strategic, conceiving ways to target you, that wants your soul, that wants to ruin you. It wants to consume you and devour you and leave you dead on the side of the road, but not quite all the way. It wants to leech off of you the satisfaction you have in a solid night rest. It wants to take your peace. It wants to authorize confusion into you. That is the dragon that we face. That is the real present threat in the room. There's a lot of talk lately about who the bad guys are. Lots of it. And you know what it is not? It's not that they talk about. That's by his design. Don't you understand? If he makes sure that you're always looking at everybody else, I call them agents of evil. These are characters, humans, under the influence of spiritual powers that devise strategies under the influence, under the inspiration, under the spiritual pressing of principalities, powers, rulers, dominions, authorities, spiritual wickedness in high places. This sword cuts through their lies. This sword is mighty. It says there's no sharper sword in existence than the words that come out of this book. We are blessed. We are alive. We yet breathe. We yet see. We can understand. We still have time. They asked me to talk about what is our duty in the end days. That's a serious question. You know what our duty is? To fight. You're in a war. And I don't know why anybody didn't start screaming that to me when I was born. I had that liar screaming in my ears when I was born. I had liars tell me things that weren't true. They gave me an identity that was not mine, and I believed it. And it ruined me. It destroyed me. I lost my hope. And I was desperate for somebody to tell me what's the answer. What is the cure to this cowardice in my soul? Why can't I fight back against these people that hurt me? Why can't I understand why it is that they take from me my innocence? I was a child. I just wanted to know the truth, and I was raised by liars. None of you are different. Not one of you was raised by the author of truth unless you read this book and you believed it and his spirit lived in you. I wanted my identity back. And so instead, better liars came to me and they told me how to get my identity back. They showed me a different way. They showed me a different sword. And they said, this is how you get it back. With violence. With murder. With rage. You can take it back. And so I believed them. And so I studied their ways. I learned how to hunt human beings. If they could convince me they were evil, if they were the bad boogeymans in the room, if you could convince me that they were just another pedophile, rapist, I would go and hunt them. I'll be that guy. I want vengeance. Vengeance is mine. Because nobody gave me vengeance when I was on the table. Nobody gave me vengeance when I was screaming for it to stop. Where was my rescuer? Where was the man with the sword to cut off the head of the serpent in my life? I prayed. I knew his name. I called to him. I said, save me. I'll do anything, please, just deliver me. Where was he? Where was he? Where were his people? Where were the warriors? Tell me. I looked. I was in your Christian churches. It was no different. I went into your churches. I sat right in the front row, waiting. Does somebody see me? Can somebody hear me? Does anybody else see the monster in the room? No eyes to see. No ears to hear. No sword in their hand. So I picked up the sword. I learned carnal weapons. I learned what it was to stalk people and get inside their heads and dismantle them. To ruin the things that made them think life was good. To take from them their hope like they'd taken mine. But don't worry, these were the bad guys, right? Till I figured out that the people that I was going after were no less evil than the people that were signing the orders away, commissioning a young soldier to go and hunt for them. So what do you do when you're 17 years old, you're 18 years old, and you realize everything you've ever known is a lie? What do you realize when you look up and see that this world around you is nothing like they say it is? The doctrines of despair are waiting to swallow you back in. Hopelessness. Worthlessness. How are we ever going to win? We're outnumbered. We're outflanked. We're outfunded. We're we are being overrun on every side. And yet there's this book that says, Altira, do not be afraid. From beginning to end, it tells you, do not fear. Do not be dismayed. Do not be discouraged. Why does he keep saying that? Every single time I pick up the book, it says, don't be afraid. It says, when people tell you, the end is near, rejoice, for your salvation draws near. There's good news. Wait, it gets better for us than it does for him. It says he comes down with a great wrath because he knows his time is short and his hours are drawing to their end. How do we defeat the dragon? How do we conquer death? I didn't know, so I joined him. I made myself a covenant bearer with death. I figured he's the most powerful one in the room because I saw versions of Jesus being taught on stage that were impotent, weak, liars, hypocritical, and abusers of the brethren. So why do I want anything to do with a kingdom that says that's the other option? But then, into the midst of that world, the reaper came to harvest my soul. The Father let me become undone. He let my mind be taken. He let me lose everything I cared about. He led me to a place in my life where I picked up one of these daggers, I picked up a blade, and I ran myself through like Saul on the mountains, and I shot myself, begging for it to end, and yet desperately wanting to live, all at the same time. And when that reaper came to harvest my soul, another one came and stood in between and said, he is mine. You cannot have him. There's clearly a whole other thing dealing with authority that I didn't understand. And my world suddenly got dismantled. And I didn't have a clue who the angel of Yahweh was, but I wanted to know him. I wanted to know his character. I wanted to serve him and be enlisted into that king's army. How do I enlist? Where do I sign up? So where did I go? The church down the road, right? That's where you sign up. That's where you go. So I found a church that was opening and welcoming, and they launched a movement called Me Too. Where you got sin in your life, brother, me too. We're going to get through it together, though. You know what happened? Sin was never conquered. You know why? Because I didn't fear Yahweh. They didn't teach me how to fear the living Elohim. They just taught me about love, which I needed. And I was a sponge that was so dry, I soaked it up with every fiber of my being, and I kept drinking more. I needed love. I needed affection. I needed an identity that wasn't shattered. And he had it there. But it wasn't the whole story. They preached to me out of this tiny little portion in the back of the book and said, read John. And I was like, yes. I read the whole Bible, you guys, when I was 12 years old. From beginning to end. I'd read the Bible multiple times, and not once did it start in John. But they assured me this was the way to do it now. They've patented a system, you see. We have a franchise corporate model to get more people into the room. You see, we are the most effective marketing campaign on the earth. The church I was going to was called Flatirons Community Church. They became the brand most recognized within the evangelical Christian societies. We had the fastest growing collegiate program anywhere. We were filling up buses and coming to Atlanta to go to Passion 2012. We were invigorated. We were fired up. We had gotten a taste of who he was. We were like the Samaritan woman begging for crumbs from the master's table. No idea who we were, but we loved the master. We wanted to be at his table. We wanted to be a part of his kingdom. We read about the miracles. We read at Acts, and we'd be like, we could do this. We were so fired up. And you know what happened? Church leadership crushed our heads. Why? Because it's not good for business. You see? Because we started preaching from the front of the book. We started talking about the way. We started recognizing that there was a salty doctrine that was in here that scattered people out of the room when you read from it. That Yeshua was super offensive. Wait a minute. Like when he preached, people ran away. Way more than they came for bread. They liked it when he gave him good, lush, sweet, delicious bread. They really hated it when he told them, this is then how you should live, to walk in my Father's ways, to obey his instructions, and to not forsake his commandments. Well, that's super unpopular these days. It's been unpopular since the beginning. I've been waiting for my whole life to find out who I was, and so I left that church to try to find out who I was. I began to see and hear about these other people out there that actually read the book, first of all the way. That was shocking. That was like, wait, what? What do you mean Genesis 6? What? What are you talking about, Rob? I don't even know what's going on right now. My face is melting. I'm opening up our Bible with my wife on the bed instead of Jersey Shore or the real world and wine. And we're like, there's a whole other story here I don't know about. This is amazing. This is the most exciting thing I've ever heard. There's giants, not like big guy with a, hold on, let me get a spear. Not like big dude with a spear, right? The David and Goliath story that's like, Goliath entered the field, mocking Israel, mocking the armies of Yahweh. He was mocking Israel. Do you get what I'm saying here? This should ring bells. He mocks Israel. He's the launcher and the artillery that shoots fiery arrows in a wave of bombardment, because he was taking out the whole army with his words. All these guys dressed for battle, soldiers of Israel, children of the wilderness who conquered Jericho, who conquered Canaan, who were in their territory. And yet there's another guy standing up mocking them. Somebody call a shepherd into the room. So Yahweh did. You know what he sent him? With cheese. He did. Jesse sends his son to go check on his brothers at the war they're supposed to be fighting. And he rolls up with bread and cheese and a shepherd's cloak and a sling. Sling man. Could I see your sling? Here's a Gibborim in the room. There's Gibborim everywhere. And if you didn't know it, you all should be carrying slings and not worrying about pistols for a while. This is Dietrich, y'all, a mighty man of war. David rolls up with this. Seriously? You betcha. And you know what he says? I also have something else in my pocket. It's called stones of the covenant. We've been hearing a whole lot this weekend all about sapphires. Anybody notice that? That was kind of like, I didn't plan that. This whole thing was supposed to go down in March, y'all. I was, during that time, living down in Florida as a gardener, working in greenhouses that were hotter than the surface of the sun I've ever walked on. Stinking Florida, y'all, is savage. It's relentless. It's tropical heat, right? I come from the desert mountains of Colorado, where there's no such thing as bugs bigger than my vehicle swarming me at every opportunity. I was terrified to go outside some days. You walk out and you're like, what happened? They're like, it's December. I'm like, what is going on? It's 96 degrees and 100% humidity, and I've got to get in a greenhouse where it's hotter. Yeah. You know what I was trying to do a year ago today? Get a job as a king's bodyguard. I'm not joking. I had a job as an executive chauffeur. It sounds super sweet, right? I was driving around really nice cars. I put on suit jackets every day. I had, body armor vests. You know what I'm saying? I was going to protect the elite, y'all, because if you didn't know this, you're immortal until Yahweh says otherwise. I knew that, right? I figured that out when I was really little. Bad news is a lot of other really corrupt, horrible people figured that out too, and they profiteered off of that. Well, I wanted to make some stinking money off of it instead. So I figured, let me go around with my immortality suit, and I will surely get the favor of a king, right? I've read Joseph a lot. He's like one conversation with the king, he's in. I'm like, yes, favor's at my door. I'm ready for it, right? I'm driving around the literal founders of iTunes, the big bad agents of evil we all talk about. I'm driving them around and making sure they get to their destination safely. And I'm seeking and probing and using every bit of wit and persuasion to try to win them over to the kingdom. But at the same time, my motives in my heart was that I could get a job. I wanted one of them to hire me because I was tired. My family, we sold our house 2 years ago. We moved full-time into an RV with 4 cats and a toddler. It's a rectangle, y'all. It's not big, right? This is a recipe for a lot of poopy and nightmaric conditions, right? Yeah. Anybody who's lived in a rectangle with a lot of poop knows that's probably not a good idea to spend a lot of time in tropical sun there. Lessons I learned the hard way. I really, really, really hoped one of these people would let me live on one of their beautiful estates, and I would have some space and some land to explore on, and a place to raise my children on, and all of our bills paid, and get to make sure and travel around with them and make sure to guard the kings of the earth. I believe that was my position. None of them hired me. I get one opportunity to go to stay at a farm in Florida where the only picture I know of where I'm going is from like 1997 thumbnail picture, and it's got like 4 trees, and I'm like, I sure hope it's good, because I'm about to drive 1,700 miles to a tree. Oh, but we had faith. We had confidence that the Father was opening that door till I started to drive out of the state. The day I start to leave Colorado, the king called me. I'm not exaggerating. He called me and said, our family would like to retain you as our bodyguard, chauffeur, and general do-gooder for our home. The door was open. And you know what I heard? The mouth of the serpent offering me temptations. And you know what I did? The one thing I never wanted to do in my life, go work in a greenhouse and sweat. I hated it. I didn't even want to go. The guy we were going down on his farm, he sure as heck did not tell me I was going to be working in the greenhouse. Not one time. Definitely that was never the story. Hey, you come out here, you work 40 hours a week for me, you can have all the unlimited organic produce off the farm and places to plug in. Yes. And then he throws me in the greenhouse on my first day there and says, weed through all the fire ants. And I had no, what the heck are fire ants, right? What are you even talking about? And he goes, oh, by the way, there's a couple hundred black widows in here. You're going to have to make sure to root them out, right? And he said, everything that's green in here needs to come out. And it's like a greenhouse. You know what I'm saying? It's defined by being green, right? I'm just getting savaged by bugs. It was ridiculous. And I was satisfied at the end of that day, because I recognized that I poured the sweat of my brow into the earth, and my family was safe. My family was in a paradise. We were 1 hour away from Sanibel Island, where they have the best seashells in the world. I'm not joking. It's called the seashell capital of the world. Look it up. The entire island's made of treasure. It's ridiculous. And I wanted to live there, so my family and my daughter could see that Yahweh had treasures in store for him if only we would go and trust him. I had to sweat my face off, and I had to learn what it was to use a different kind of blade. I had to learn about these with all my might. I really thought I was going to be using these with all my might. And instead, I had to learn to be a vine dresser. The best tomato grower in the world invited me to his farm. And you know what he entrusted me? These next to his most valuable possessions. His tomatoes, I'm not kidding you, are $5 a pound wholesale. It's ridiculously expensive if you've ever tried to buy a tomato wholesale. Most people pay 79 to 49 cents a pound. People were paying him, literal kings of the earth again. Naples, Florida is like the home of the billionaires club. They wanted his tomatoes. I became his vine dresser. That man taught me, lover of Jesus, taught me how to tend to the vine. how to be gentle, how to be delicate, how to wrap this little string all the way around these vines that would grow 20, 21 feet long. And I'm in there hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours, and bugs are just swarming these bare feet. Swarming me, man. It's savage. But you know what? My wife got a job too. Not my goal in life. She's like, got to stay home, right? That's the whole reason we unplugged from, like, we had degrees, good income, a house in a nice neighborhood-ish, nice-ish neighborhood. There's a bunch of ritualistic killings going on there. You can look up our documentary series on that. That's where I met Jake Grant. Super, super sweet intro story him and I had together. Burning Bibles, rituals, master occultists. Jessica Ridgway, you can look into her case. She was murdered and sacrificed to all these dragon gods again. Anyways, that was a time in my life where I wanted my wife to be able to raise our children up. And instead, she's out there going through the greenhouse with a harvesting basket. And she is inspecting my fruit. You see where this is going, right? She's inspecting my fruit. My wife's job is to inspect my fruit and pick the tomato and set it so delicately in, because we would only pick them when they were just ripe. Because the farmer where I was staying had one mission. He wanted people to taste and see that God was good when they ate his produce. I didn't know that when we went there. I sure as snot tasted those tomatoes and knew that God was good. They were the best tomatoes I had in my life. I hated tomatoes before that moment. I hated them. I was that kid that was like, don't make me eat the tomato. Don't make me eat it. I ate all those tomatoes. I started eating 10 to 20 to 30 tomatoes a day, right? I was sweating and dripping in tomato goodness all the time. It was relentless. But my wife would come along and inspect my fruit. She would pick it up. And then, you know what? I got entrusted when I was faithful for 2 months of sweating it out in the greenhouse. The opportunity to go to a market and make a table and sell and represent the farmer's fruit. I'm the best stinking guy in the room to sell you something, son. There's nobody in the room that wants to sell you this fruit more than me. I'm not kidding. You know what? We had ugly fruit. Ridiculously ugly. Most people are like, what? This looks terrible. I've had people ask me, what's the deal with this apple? Right? Hold on. Let me show you a counterfeit. There you go. That might fit your mind better. Okay? We've been programmed our whole life that maybe Black Mirror industry Apple computers has shown us this is what Eve ate. This little apple, right? Looks so pretty and shiny, rotten and dead, and will destroy your soul if you eat this. They've genetically modified and corrupted the image of fruit to make it appealing to our eyes, to make it good on our eyes. And yet, this is the fruit I picked off of a tree personally that was on the side of a road that otherwise it was going to go to waste, because people don't buy ugly fruit. Why? Why have we been brainwashed to believe ugly things are bad? I contend it's because the dragon put scales over your eyes to make you buy poison and drink it and eat it, just as Eve did in the garden. It worked then, folks. You're no smarter than Eve or Adam. You're just as susceptible to falling to the snares of the devil, just as much as I was. This is what fruit looks like when it lives. This is what it looks like when it's dead. Perfect on the outside, rotten and mushy. How many of you guys eaten an apple before and been like, oh, it tastes like cardboard? Why does it taste so bad? It looks so good on the outside. That's because, you know what? They literally spray paint some of these. Like oranges down in Florida, everybody comes to our orange table and they're green and brown and they look savagely bad. They look horrible. They got like wart things on them. You're like, what's going on with these oranges? People are like, these are terrible looking. And then I would use my knife and slice it open and feed it to them. And you know what happened? They would bite into it and juice would run over their face. And I was like, game over, son. I got you. I got you. And that's what happened, man. I literally was singing songs. Come and buy our tomatoes. We grow the best food in the world. Come and taste our fruit and see how good it is. I was singing songs about the wonders of this fruit because I had sweat equity in the game. I'd sweat over that food. I poured the sweat of my brow, and he said, Adam, you are cursed. Men, you are cursed to work by the sweat of your face if you want to eat. But I ran from that identity as long as I could until I tasted fruit that had been grown by the sweat of my brow. I'd never eaten anything so delicious in my life. Plants should look like this. buy ugly fruit. Rule number 1, I guess, of this talk, our duty in the end days, buy ugly fruit. Second rule, fruit looks different. This grew off the same tree as this. This has got like some kind of butt crack looking thing going on here. Not where it belongs. What went wrong here? What went wrong here? Something got into this thing that wanted to eat this thing because it was alive and delicious and it knew better than we did. Bugs, pests, the nightmares of gardening, the tithers of the earth. They came in to try to devour this fruit and to take it over. But you know what happened? Plants are smart, y'all. Do you know tomatoes, when I touch them, they respond immediately? Do you know a tomato will immediately respond? It has hairs all over its entire vine. The second I touch it, it feels it. It will immediately be changing itself. The second I touch it. If I touch it roughly, if I wrap the cord too tight around it, it will kill it. Disease will rip open a wound, and disease and mold will get in there, and it will slowly start to kill that vine. But if I'm gentle, and I take my time, if I help that prune it by taking these suckers and these shoots off of it, it will allow it to grow more fruit. Then the fruit gets the energy and not this savage little butt crack looking fruit here. It's amazing. This apple wanted to live, and it kept living because it released these things called phytokines. It's like the animal, it's like the plant's defense mechanisms. It's its immune system. It fights back. When you go to a farmer's market and you look at real produce, it's got wormholes and bites in it and all this other stuff. That's because the plant's still fighting. It hasn't given up yet. When you eat that, you get your immune system boosted. It starts to heal you. It starts to train your body to fight back. Food is medicine. Don't believe liars that say anything otherwise. They probably have a profit agenda in mind that says, don't do that. They may be motivated by mammon. He runs a big kingdom. I didn't think there was any reason I would be selling fruit in Florida for the winter, but the Father did. And then you know what happened? It got hotter than the surface of the sun again, and I went north. I was like, get me out of here. I gotta go. So then I started diving in creeks and rivers and streams, and they're full of fossils in Florida. And I've waited my whole life to find fossils. Nobody in the world wanted fossils more than the 8-year-old kid who was screaming and desperate to get out. I knew these rocks were how I got out. You see? Because no matter how bad the world was that I lived in, I knew I could walk outside and see a stone of testimony waiting for me. I knew the Father spoke through the stones because he wasn't speaking from the pulpits up here. Those stones are crying out. If I keep silent, if they keep silent, these stones will cry out. Why? Because they bear witness to the one who made them. They bear his witness on the earth when we're silent, when we're afraid, when we've been pummeled and crushed and made to believe the lies of the serpent are who we really are. So I sought the rocks my whole life. A lot of people walk by my table and they're like, wow, this guy's got a lot of rocks. Like, what's the deal, man? What's the deal? I'm like, there's sapphires on my table. You don't even get it. And they're like, no, I really don't. I don't. They're just rocks. I'm like, these are sapphires in my hand. Hold on. Some of you can't see this, so I'm going to get them wet. They look slightly different. Not so much. But there's an interesting thing about these sapphires. Everybody is always like, where's those sapphires? Where's those big, pretty sapphires? Everybody wants the gems, right? That's because marketers lied to you and made you buy things that were basically worthless, that were just rocks made in a lab, almost always. They made you believe in something called the illusion of scarcity, that diamonds are rare, super rare. We promise, you can trust us. We sell them for a living. They're no less rare than this stone. Stand fast. Topaz. Here's topaz. It's clear. All kinds of different colors. Yellows, pinks, oranges. It's beautiful. It's lovely. But people are like, it's topaz. I hand it to them. I'm like, there's topaz. And they're like, all right. I'm like, it's like a diamond. And they're like, yeah, but it's not a diamond. I'm like, you're not getting it. But somebody is getting it. And do you know who's getting it? You know who figured it out at my table? I've got a little sign here. This is what it says. Welcome to Nate's treasure chest. Live vibrantly by searching for marvelous, inspiring, and unique bits of creation. Our treasures are yours. Pick out some gemstones, fossils, or seashells to bring you new glee. People walk up and they're like, oh yeah, how much do I got to pay? I'm like, it's a gift. And they're like, oh, okay. I'm like, fill your pockets. And they're like, oh yeah, okay. This guy's freaking me out, man. I'm like, they're gemstones. I've literally driven thousands of miles to bring them to you. I've lived through nightmares of crazy poop explosions in my RV to bring them to you. None of these got pooped on, allegedly. I've driven everywhere to get these to you guys. And you're all like, yeah, that's cool. Could I have one? I'm like, what is going on? I'm trying to tell you to take them all. I've got buckets back there. And y'all are still just like, okay, thanks. Y'all looking at me like, what's he going to do next? I don't know. Do you think he really means it? I don't know. Don't look at him. Don't look at him. Don't make any sudden noises. He might take it back. No, I'm not like that. There you go. There you go. I contend that's because you listen to this liar. His name is the father of lies. He also conceived all kinds of other things on the earth. You ever hear about iniquity? Sin? Transgression? Where was this conceived? Where was death conceived? Mental programming image. The garden. He stole it from you. You know what's amazing? Who he didn't steal it from? Jubilee. I don't know if she's in here. Jubilee! Champion. Mighty Gibborim right there. There's a 5-year-old girl who's been teaching you guys lessons that you haven't been paying attention to this whole weekend. She's the one teaching the room. You step out that door, y'all. What did you see? Glee. She brought a bucket to my table. Yes! Finally! She's got emeralds that are the size of her fist in that bucket. She's got rubies that are saucier than this. You know why? Because she believed that I'd given her a good gift. You don't have to tell children, hey, daddy, 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 I want a snack. How many times you heard that phrase in your life if you're a parent? Snacks. Dadgummit. More snacks. They always want snacks, man. Always want snacks. Always want snacks. That's where I live, where they grow food, because I'm like, go outside. There's literally an orchard of orange trees outside. My daughter just sit there and savage 20 oranges. Amazing. Relentless. They understand what a good gift is. They understand when somebody says, take as much as you'd like. I understood that. I wrote a chapter in my book. It's the last chapter, in case some of you guys are too afraid to work your way through the whole thing. You can just skip ahead to the end. It totally ruins the story. But we know a whole church and kingdom that did that too. But chapter 42 is called The Hunger. It's called The Hunger. And it's literally about my desperate need to satisfy this thing in my soul called hunger. And it's not just like physical hunger, right? I had this deep hunger that could never be satisfied, this restlessness that ate away my contentment. I needed more. I needed one more day. If I could just get through this day and get to that one, it'll be better. I was discontent, right? That's what the hunger was. I was discontent, and I needed something to satisfy that. And so when somebody would say, here's free food, it's like, dude, challenge accepted. Ask Joy. This poor woman's had to feed me the last 2 days, right? She's like, literally, by day 3, she's figured it out. Just leave 5 or 6 things on the table for me to eat. I eat all of it, y'all, because I recognize when somebody says it's free and it's good, we should eat as much of it as we can possibly take in. You are made to eat awesomeness to the fullest abundance, right? With glee, right? I understand why we should eat with joy and satisfaction this meal, because the next one's not promised. I used to go and take these things and make sure the guy never ate another meal. When he sat down to dine the day before, he didn't know that was the last bite of food he'd ever taste. How many of you have the same thing in your head? Why don't we live like that? Children do. Totally oblivious to where tomorrow's bread's coming from. Daddy, can I have a snack? Yeah, I'll find something, man. I gotta go work, right? Yeah, that's what we do. They don't have to worry about that. They shouldn't have to. So do we believe this book? I gotta open up the sword, y'all. Heads up. It's about to get saucier. Now let's just go straight to the Deuteronomy side of the page. shall we? If you guys didn't know it, there's a book called Deuteronomy. It's literally the most incredible book you will ever read in your life after you read all the other ones. Okay, stand fast. You ready for this? Check this out. Now, here we go. But, nice start. If from there you seek Yahuwah, from where? From the wilderness, from wherever you are, from the day you hear this story, from the day you come into contact with this word, this truth, this reality, from wherever you are, when the day that jaw goes yank this way and you get out of the world, from wherever you are that moment, you shall seek Yahweh, Yahuwah Elohaiku, you shall find him. If you seek him with all your heart and all your soul, so that when you are in tribulation and all these things are come upon you, even in the latter days, if you turn to Yahuwah Elohaiku and shall be obedient unto his voice, for Yahuwah Elohaiku is a merciful Elohim. He will not forsake you, neither destroy you, nor forget the covenant of your fathers which he swore unto them. He doesn't forget that we still need things like bread, snacks, treasures. He loves us for real. Not like a little bit. Like you guys don't understand. He loves you so much that he made rocks. Come on! He made rocks, y'all! All of them, like rocks. This is blue topaz. Blue topaz. It's totally unique. There is no other like this stone in all of creation. It's one of one. What are we supposed to be on this earth? Living stones of testimony. We are supposed to be doing what this stone's been doing in my life since I was a child. Your job, your duty in the end times, is to be the living witness of who your daddy is. Who's my daddy? Come and find out. Come at me, son. Let's see. Why are we afraid? Why are we troubled? Why is it when we hear about all the bad things that are happening? Stephen, turn off the black mirror. Turn off the black mirror. If you don't know what a black mirror is, turn your phone off and let it go into sleep mode for a moment. That's a black mirror. Forever, people use that to talk to demons. They wanted to talk to the dragon? That's how you do it. Wait a minute. Are you saying I should turn off my YouTube channel? No, turn off mine. That's fine. Read the book. I don't care what you do. If you haven't read this thing from beginning to end regularly, every day, as if your life depended on it, you shouldn't be doing anything else in your life. I'm not exaggerating. I'm a pretty intense human. Read the book. It will change you. I had to. I've been awake to this stuff. I wrote a book. I've been speaking about this stuff for years. And the Father told me, turn off everything. While I was in those greenhouses, I was listening to the conspiracy podcast, like double speed. Yes! Super research mode, right? We call it research, guys. Honey, I know, but I'm researching, right? You gotta understand. He just came out with another video. You gotta check it out. Just check it out, right? No, you know what I was doing? I didn't want to hear the voice that was in my own head. I was avoiding. I was an escape artist. I was avoiding this. If I was honest, I was avoiding my Father. Because it's way more comfortable to find, for us, people that will scratch our itching ears too. We all got them saved in our Watch Later playlist. We're like, yeah, I got like 300 in there, man. I'm going to be busy this year. I'm going to be so busy. Father's like, turn it all off. No podcasts, no YouTube, no TV, nothing. Nothing else but His Word, period. For 4 months. I fasted. What? No, I fasted. It's biblical. You know what I didn't do? Stop eating the stuff that was on the farm because I was working like a hoss. I ate this. And then you know what I realized? My addiction to violence. I was addicted to the way of the blade. I put out a whole series called The Way of the Blade. And you know what happened as I was going through that? I was telling people all about knives, obviously, because they're sweet. I love them. They're wonderful, and you should carry one everywhere you go. If you don't do that, and a flashlight, we should do that. Hold on. Snacks and gemstones. Fundamentals, EDC list, y'all. Sapphires, I got buckets. Just ask me. I'll mail them to you. Really, I do every day. All over the world for free. Seriously, folks, this taught me that I was addicted to those still. And I started trying to teach a series called The Way of the Blade. And it was the first time I'd ever turned on a camera and interviewed myself. It's scary to do, y'all. It's intense. It's not fun being in front of this thing. Like, it looks fun sometimes when you're at home watching somebody else do it. But it's kind of, it just reveals all this crap in your soul. And you're like vomiting it on the screen, and you realize suddenly, my wife goes, why don't you read the Bible, honey? And I was like, well, you know, if I just digest the word and then I regurgitate it in a sweet way people can understand and articulate. She's like, why don't you just read the Bible? And you know what happened? I listened to my helpmate. You know what? It set me free. It exposed in me the roots of bitterness that are still there. I still have so much crap in my soul. I'm still the guy driving around with poop in his heart. I can't get rid of it. It stinks all the time. I can't stand the stuff that's going on in my head, so I plug it up with all kinds of other things that'll make it go away. So do you. You run from this. This is salvation. This is deliverance. This is hope. This is your destiny. This is your mission statement. When you're in the military, you get something called the rules of engagement, ROE. You are required to know that, to when and where I can shove my spear through some guy's heart. Trained murderers, every soldier you ever met, trained murderer. They know when to engage and when not to, generally. Sometimes we get pissed. We're going after somebody. This tells you your rules of engagement. This teaches you about authority. This teaches you how not to bring a railing accusation against the devil, but to ask Yahweh to rebuke him. This teaches you how to contend against the dragon, that devil, that serpent of old, because the enemy, the devil, the dragon is defeated by the blood of the Lamb, the words of our testimony, and not loving our lives when we are faced with death. Do you love your life? Do you love your life? Don't. That's what this says. That makes no sense. That's super backwards, right? That's like starting in the back of the book. What? What are you talking about? This makes no sense. His kingdom's totally not of this world. It won't make sense to everybody else. That's why they mock you. Because you guys are reading the book. It's changing you. It's changing you. You're made to be hunters of men. You're not just fishermen, y'all. You know, Jesus came out there, Yeshua comes out, he calls people and says, come and be fishers. I will teach you to be fishers of men. You used to fish for fish. Come fish for men. Why did he say that? Anybody know where he said that from? Because he didn't make that up. The only words that ever came out of his mouth came from who? The Father. Every word that came out of his lips came from the Father. Boy, I put these tabs on here and it's super confusing now. I used to just sift through this thing. Hang in there. I got to look for words in another language. Figure that out. I'm working on it. Jeremiah, y'all. Hang in there. Jeremiah 16:16. I'm not there yet. I'm just looking like I am. Oh my gosh, where'd the books go? I'm serious. All right, Jeremiah. If y'all haven't read Jeremiah 16, stinking read it. I just read the whole book. Can you read one book of the Bible a day? I challenge you. I challenge you. Read one book of the Bible every day till you get to the end. You know how long it could take you? I don't know. Different books, different amounts. But 66 days, 2 months. I met a guy at that farm in Florida who woke up in the middle of that hook in the jaw moment. I'm sick and tired of sitting in traffic 2 hours a day. Maybe I'm going to paddle around all of Ireland in a kayak. Okay. Did it. Took him about as long as it could take you guys to read the Bible. Just paddled solo in the open ocean of the North Atlantic. A dude. Not like Superman. A dude. A mighty man. Taught me lessons I can't even start to read. Gave me the opportunity to go out in a kayak with him and paddle out and jump in a river full of alligators and swim right up to one and look it in the face. People are like, why? I'm like, because I want to know what they look like in their eye. I needed to know that. Checked off that bucket list item for me. It was amazing. I still got all my fingers, y'all. It went great. Jeremiah 16:16, Yeshua teaches me how to fish. This is where Jesus said it. You ready? Check this out. Behold, I will send for many fishers, says Yahuwah, and they shall fish them. And after what? Wait a minute. After what? After the fishermen. After the fishermen, Yeshua raised up and taught them how to fish. After them, I will send for many hunters. and they shall hunt them from every mountain, from every hill, and out of the holes of the rocks. For my eyes are upon all their ways. They are not hidden from my face, neither is their iniquity hid from my eyes. And first I will recompense their iniquity and their sin doubly, because they defiled at my land, and they filled at my inheritance with the carcasses of their detestable and abominable things. That's what that book talks about. Detestable and abominable things that happened. I expose that because he is not looking away from it. And I can't get a single Christian church to invite me onto the stage to talk about one thing that's detestable. Why? Because that one's influenced them. But don't worry, there's good news. O Yahuwah, my strength and my fortress, my refuge in the day of affliction, the other people shall come unto you from the ends of the earth, and shall say, surely our fathers have inherited lies, vanity, and things wherein there is no profit. Shall a man make an Elohim unto himself when they are not Elohim? Therefore, behold, I will this once cause them to know. I will cause them to know that my hand and my might, and they shall know my name is Yahuwah. This is your call. This is your duty. You are sitting in this room because you woke up and said, my father taught me lies. Yes, you inherited lies. Welcome to the Hunters Club. That's what you're here to be. Your duty is to hunt the souls of men. Your duty is to recognize that you're in a war. Gear up. This is a tiny shield. You're made to carry it everywhere you go. You ever read this? It says, Psalm 91, Yahuwah, his word is my shield and buckler. This is a buckler. It's like a tiny shield, and it doesn't look super great from this angle. But I promise you, it's really effective in combat. Okay? You know why? Because if you go out there with a giant shield on your back and you just try to eat lunch, you can't sit down, you're tired, you know what you do? You leave your shield at home. You're like, that stinking thing sucks to carry. I don't ever want to carry a shield again. Welcome to the buckler world. This is an everyday carry tool. This is a buckler. It is designed so that you can carry your machete, your working blade. I use this on farms. I used to think that this is all the thing I could do to disarm people, physically disarm them. I'm not being like theoretical in that. It works very well for that job. It also works great at chopping bamboo stakes for my tomatoes that I grow. It's amazing. It's a functional tool. I use it all the time. It's short, it's compact, and it's crazy good at chopping. It's awesome. I love it. And you know what happens? I can carry this on my person. Generally, most people don't freak out. Sometimes. The buckler is made for you to carry because you know what happens? It will stop a sword. This is stinking plastic garbage. And it stops this super savage sword. Like, you're going to war and you don't go out in your armor. What's wrong with this picture? That's why everybody's dead. That's why they're all dying. Because nobody taught them about the sword and the shield and the armor. Where is it? We need people to raise up a generation who is mighty, who knows how to fight, who knows how to defend themselves and guard their sword hand so the enemy doesn't cut their hands off, and instead teaches people how to make our fingers ready for battle and make our hands ready for war. This young man right here, this mighty Gibborim, and this other one sitting in the back of the room over there, those young men are teaching me how to be a warrior again. 14-year-old, right there, stand up please. Daniel, that is Daniel. That is a mighty Gibborim. You know why? You ever read Numbers? You know that book that people used to mock in the Bible? You want to put yourself to sleep, read Numbers. Are you kidding me? Numbers is savage. You want to read Numbers? Start in chapter 22 if you're lazy. 22 through 25. You're going to read about Balaam, the doctrines of Balaam, this super sorcerer, like the sorcerer of all. He's the Illuminati of his day, right? He's the one all-seeing eye. He's the bad guy in the room. He blesses Israel because you can't curse what Yahweh says is blessed. Out of his own mouth he said that. He tried. The kings of the earth offered him all the gold. if he would just come over here and curse Israel. Somebody curse Israel, please. They're going to slaughter us. That guy tried. He blessed him. He blessed him 3 times. His blessing we still repeat to this day as a blessing of Israel. And then you know what happened? He connived another way to get them. He seduced them with the doctrines of Balaam. If you read Revelation, you'll read about the doctrines of Balaam. You'll read about the throne of Zeus and the throne of Satan and Pergamum and the doctrines of Balaam that'll work again to seduce Israel. So Yahweh will curse us. But don't worry. One Gibborim stood up. Out of the congregation, one stood up and took a spear in his hand, and he ran it through the monsters that were in there, defiling the sanctuary, and stopped the plague of Yahweh. Daniel did that. I stood with him and his father in his house till 2 a.m. We were melting minds, all of us collectively, reading the scripture, talking about all this stuff like we've been talking about here. And you know what Daniel realized? He had an idol in his midst. For him, it came in the form of an Xbox. And he said, this thing is opening up my heart, my family, my little brother to demons, to nightmares, to terrors, to the things that steal our peace. So you know what we did? He took his Xbox out in the woods at 2 a.m, picked up a giant splitting maul, and smashed that thing. And you know what happened? He became a Gideonite. Read the book of Judges. He was called a Gibborim. He rose up, and he said, I will obey the voice of Yahweh. The angel of Yahweh told Gideon, get up and go tear down your father's idols. Like, I'm a dude. He's like, you're my Gibborim. He's like, I'm a dude. I'm like pounding out wheat in a wine press, bro. Giant army over there. Hundreds of thousands of humans here to slaughter us if I do otherwise. He says, go tear down the idol in your father's house to conquer them. What? So he does, but he's scared. So he does it at night with 10 other dudes. It's a pretty smart move. You know what happened? After the idol came down and all the people came to murder him, his father rose up. That's Pete, his dad. Gibborim number 2. His dad saw what his son did. And he realized, I should have done that a long time ago. And he took his idols out of his house and smashed those things. Actually, he shot him in the face with a tiny air pellet. It was beautiful. It was wonderful. It was precision shooting at its finest. He destroyed the idols that were in his house. He's raising up his sons to be mighty. Because you know what? The children are watching you. They're watching you. If you turn off the black mirror, suddenly they have nobody else to look at in the room but your face. It's super unpleasant at first. Trust me. It's exhausting, and you're going to have to work harder. But don't worry, the sweat of your brow, it's what you're here for. Work harder. You know how we defeat him at the end of it? Do you know how I defeat the dragon of old? I outlive him. I outlive him. That's the one thing at the end of our lives that will matter, is do we go through the fires of tribulation and let our flesh be burned now, that we tear our idols down now, and we take back this kingdom, and we occupy until he comes, and know that he will throw that one into the flames forever. He will give me immortality. I want to live forever with him. I want to be free. I am so exhausted. I am so tired. All I cry for, all I beg him for is land. Please, Father, give me land. I am so exhausted. I want to cry. I want to cry. I have children for 4 years. They cry every day, and I don't get to cry. I was made to be silent. I hated that. I just wanted to be able to cry and scream. Somebody save us! Yeshua! Save me! Have mercy on us! Remember your people! This is for us! I just want that. I wanted somewhere I could go and scream. And instead I live on other people's land and I live in other people's parking lots, and I can't do that. It's unreal how frustrating it is when you can't just go scream. I know you guys, you're all been told and brainwashed to believe you shouldn't be screaming in public either. It's super awkward. Trust me, I just tried it. So you know what I did? I've been battling that rage. For 4 years, I've been bottling up those screams. And it's venting out, and it's killing my marriage, and it's killing my family, and it's killing my friendships because I'm so frustrated I can't get it out. I used to get it out through this. I used to think this was the only way that I could scream. It's a lie. The world needs to hear our screams. There's a day commanded for you to go and scream. The Day of Atonement, the Yom Teruah. You are to go and scream. Cry, wail, beg him, save us. That's what his feasts are for. I needed that for my identity to be secure. You need that for your identity to be secure. You are Israel. You were made for such a time as this. The days are evil, but you were born for them. You are a righteous people. You are kings. You are priests. You are the kings of the earth. You are sovereign to submit to his sovereignty. Or you can be like everybody else and be your own man, your own woman. And you can be sifted by vanity. Yahweh says he will sift us by vanity. And he has. The black mirrors, the silver mirrors we look at every day, put on our beauty masks. Liars convinced you are not beautiful. Liars convinced you, women, that you don't matter and belong in the home. Liars, thieves, murderers. They're stealing from you your children. They're stealing from you your marriages. What are you going to do about it? Are you going to bow down and take it? Or are you going to fight? Cover those mirrors, every mirror in your house. Cover it with the sword. Cut vanity off your face. Cut it off your children before they're raised in it. Show them that, yeah, you know what? Mommy used to be like that, but now she's not. My wife, different woman. 7 years ago when we got, 9 years ago, somewhere in the ballpark of I'm sleep deprived and tired because I have children region, we got married. She looked like a completely different human. So did I. You know what happened? We got walked out of the image of who we were and we became the image of who he is. We were being transformed. My wife used to never go swimming for treasures with me. She'd look at this and be like, yeah, that's great, honey. You go out there. I look great today. I'm sitting on the beach. I'm serious. She didn't sound like that ever. But in my head, she looked great. And she was sitting on the beach. And I was treasure hunting for her. It's awesome. Until one day, you know what happened? She realized she'd swallowed the hook of vanity. That you know what? Beauty masks and hairdos and looking good and outfits and beauty were what made her pretty. But you know what? This is the truth. I call her in the beginning chapters of my book a dusty sapphire. I wrote this years ago, and I went looking for some way to wash her. And you know what I found it? In the Living Scriptures. I'm commanded as a husband. If you're a husband, you're commanded to wash your wife in the water of the Word. You know why? Because she is a gem, one of a kind, the most beautiful specimen in all of the world, and she's yours. She's a treasure. Adore her. Smash your idol if it's making you think there's anything other more beautiful in the world. Murder your idols, men. Take violence to your idols. And you know what will happen? Your marriage will be restored. You will understand covenant is so powerful, and your wife will be renewed. She's taken off the beauty masks. She is jumping in the rivers with me and our daughters, and she is delighted to serve in her household for the wonderful benefits. She just put out a video that's called Repurposing Your Destiny, and it's about her making clothes for our family. She's a totally different woman than RN Chelsea when I met her, working hard at the nursing station. Miserable. She used to say, I feel like a whore for the money, honey. I hate this. I'm in a system of corruption and evil and lies, and I'm poisoning people, and I hate it. She is a righteous woman now. She's been sanctified. She's being transformed. She has a better identity now. And we've discovered that in this fabric of gladness. Oh yeah, linen. Check this out. Real quick. Linen is your armor. Read the Bible from beginning to end. Question. Rhetorical. What was Yeshua wrapped in? Linen. When he was born. Linen. when he died? Linen. What are the angels, the heavenly host, the mighty army angels, what are they wearing? Linen. You got it, Blossom. Out of the mouths of babes and suckling nursing infants, he is appointed praise. This is your armor. It blocks static electricity. It will shield you from the total onslaught of the dragon. Literally, I'm not exaggerating. If you didn't wear it, Ezekiel 44:17, you would die. Don't put anything on your body that causes you to sweat. There's fabrics that cause you to sweat. There's also ones that conduct electricity to poison you all the time. You're all sitting on it. Welcome to the world of nightmares. We walk on it. The whole polyester, we sit on petroleum, we wear petroleum, and we wonder why the spill in the Gulf is the bad news. Like, this is an organ, y'all. Your face, your arms, your skin, your loins. These should be taken care of. Not with petroleum. Put real fabrics on your body. Eat ugly food. Fundamentals. Get barefoot. Oh, I'm not even kidding. Get barefoot. Take the poison off your feet and put your feet on the ground and watch what happens. It'll change you. It'll hurt like crazy. It's super uncomfortable. I don't love it all the time, especially when I meet gravel. But you know what happens? I understand that his creation's beneath my feet, not the creation of man. Not Nike, the goddess that broke my knees and my ankles. Anybody else have some back pain, knee injuries? I'm going to go jogging. People are like, you're going, what? Singing sucks. I hate jogging. Yeah, because it wrecks your body. You know what? Humans been running in the Gospels of the sandals of peace. Sandals in the Bible. Sandals for a reason. It wasn't Nike. Because why? He's got a whole other way of building our bodies that's perfect. That's not corrupt. It's not damaged. Liars told you that. Every area of your life. The bread you eat, grind your own flour. It will change your life. Literally. It'll change your life. Eat flour that was ground fresh, and you can live on it. What? I got celiacs. No, you don't. You have a liar in your ear that fed you something called refined white flour, which is the pastries and the delicacies of kings, which are forbidden in Proverbs from desiring. Don't desire their delicacies, because it would make them fat, and everybody knew they were rich. There's all kinds of stuff out there, guys. Go look for yourself. Go become a Linenite. It's wonderful. It'll keep you 15 degrees cooler than cotton. I wasn't even sweating at the Guidestones. For real. I watched y'all. Y'all were sweaty. There's people that are like, it's been 10 minutes. I gotta sit down. It's exhausting out here in this Georgia heat. I'm from South Dakota, where it's still hot. Come on. He's like, I know. You guys were made to live vibrantly. You guys were made to have glee in your souls. These stones up here that almost everybody left behind are muddy, dirty, dusty sapphires. And now I won't say that. Some of you got it. Some of you figured it out. There's one for somebody. They're waiting for you. Yahweh has in this book treasures beyond measure that are dusty and left behind and considered the old ways, but they're his perfect witness. They are the testimonies of Yeshua, and they are the commandments of Yahweh, and they will be your shield. Oh, I should grab this one. I didn't even show you this one. Double-edged sword. They will be your shield and your sword, so you can stand against the wiles and the schemes of the devil, because 1 John tells us that Yeshua came to destroy the works of the dragon. So I challenge you. Spend 40 days of the next 40 days of your life fasting every other influence. Become only influenced by the word of Yahweh. Let it alone define you. Fast the poisons that are killing you. Go to a thrift store. Find linen. Pray to the author of hope, and he will give it to you. If not, email me, and I'll send you it. I'm not kidding. It's called Becoming a Linenite Facebook group. We'll mail you all the linen. We send it all over the world. I also will send you gemstones, because then I made sapphire and linen armor. Oh yeah, son. It gets awesome. This is called Reconstructing Ancient Linen Body Armor. That's Alexander the Great wearing linen body armor. It's awesome. Right there. He shoots his grad student with an arrow in the chest for his demonstrations in class. That's pretty fun. I can't wait to throw a spear at one of you guys with that armor on. Anyways, I love you guys tremendously. Thank you Mr. and Mrs. Garcia, thank you all for giving me the opportunity to come here and be with you. I pray you take boldly the words of your testimony and you share them and you pour out on everybody you know. Yahweh loves you, Yeshua cares about you, and you are made for war. So go be valiant in battle, go be a Gibborim, and fight for the name above every name, and you will conquer. In Yeshua's mighty name, I bless you. Oh, and if you didn't know it, there's one more caveat to this. The only way, one of the only ways you're ever going to be able to see the gemstones for what they truly are is to wash them in water. Be baptized. Legitimately. Like, it's still important. You don't have to do it once. You should do it all the time. Living water. That means like a river or a creek if you can, not the pool. So we're going to go to a lake and a creek, and we're going to baptize. And by that we mean we're going to stand and witness each other, confess our sins, and scream out our agonies to the Father of all creation and be washed clean and come out new creations, set apart to keep his covenant. And I hope each and every one of you knows that all you need to do is call upon him and then learn to walk in his ways, and he will be your deliverance. I love you guys. Thank you.